Hello everyone and welcome to DownUnderSteer. In today's show, we announce the winner of Guess What Corner This Is. We go through the latest Formula 1 news, some technical aspects which you can expect to see in the new season. We analyse the midfield and compare last year's midfield to the new lineups for 2012. Plus we wrap up with the final session of testing at Catalunya. Let's go. Joining me again today is Jem Ruggiero.
Hello.
Okay, last week we had Guess What Corner This Is. So, Jem, what corner is it?
This was an easy one. It's the hairpin at Suzuka.
That's right, it was. And the very discerning Joseph Fitch 12 did successfully guess it. So well done, Joseph Fitch 12. We are carrying on this competition into the next season. So, guess what corner this is? It might take a bit of a boffin to guess this one.
Yeah, does the corner even have a name yet, I wonder?
Well, it probably doesn't have a name. There you go. That's the only hint that you'll get. We shall have a look at the news. A couple of things to go through, I think, in the last week of Formula 1 news. We've got Ferrari talking about, not talking really about the performance of their car. They've forbid Massa and Alonso from talking to the media at the Catalunya test. So that can really only mean that they're either doing poorly or extremely well, you would think.
Yeah, I don't think it's a good sign for Ferrari. I think they're probably quite worried about how their season is panning out so far.
The Mercedes team have commented that their car does seem to be quite hard on the tyres. Well, more specifically, Schumacher mentioned that degradation could be an issue this season, although they were very happy to say that they're in a position to annoy the leading teams this year.
Yeah, Mercedes has looked confident since they first came to a test in Barcelona last week.
All right, and also taking up some of the news slot is the Red Bull car. There's been more talk about the Red Bull wizardry which they've got going on in their car, and more specifically there's been an article on Formula1.com which does detail this innovation they've made, which they're labelling as the blown rear suspension unit.
Yeah, they've got the exhaust pipes angled in a way that the exhaust gases are blowing over all the separate parts of the rear suspension components. And the suspensions have been built in such a way so that they're long and flat and look like miniature wings.
Yeah, so I mean, we joked about it last week, saying, "Do you really want to be blowing hot air into your suspension unit?" And Red Bull's answer is, "Yes, we do. Thank you for asking."
It's definitely not a hot blowing system because that has been specifically banned by the FIA, but it does seem like they've got some kind of exhaust manipulation still happening.
Well, it seems as if, forcing these backfires through the suspension unit, in a way, it's getting around the hot blowing rules as such, but it's still having that effect. We're going to take a step back here and talk about the midfield from last year, because when you discount the winners or the winning teams from last year, there was actually some very interesting stuff going on in the midfield in the 2011 season.
Yeah, there was. I mean, Red Bull kind of ran away with the championship, but further back in the field, it was very tight. Renault probably had the most difficult pre-season, with Robert Kubica being severely injured in a rally accident. And had a stroke, the natural leader of the team was gone. Nick Heidfeld was drafted in to replace him, but he wasn't quite the sort of inspirational leader that Kubica was. Despite that, the team made a good start, picking up podiums in Australia and Malaysia. And at the season half point, they trailed Mercedes by only 3 points. That they trailed them by 92 at season end gives some indication of the decline that Renault went through. Their rear-facing exhaust system was strong early on, but it didn't have a lot of development potential. And remember Heidfeld's exhaust blowing up in Hungary after he pulled over on the side of the road. In the last 4 races of the season, Renault scored a solitary point. In contrast to that were the fortunes of Force India. They improved over the length of the season. They introduced exhaust and diffuser upgrades at Silverstone, and with Renault disappearing down the tube, they nearly snatched fifth in the championship. And by the end of the season, Force India was beating Mercedes in a straight fight. 7th and 8th in the Constructors were decided by 3 points, Sauber just holding off Toro Rosso. Sauber scored double the amount of points that Toro Rosso did at the first half of the season. But after the hot-blown diffuser was banned for a single race at Silverstone, Sauber went up a development dead end. And once Boemi and Alguersuari picked up some consistency, they came very close to snatching 7th place away from them. So for those 4 teams, their driver lineups, some have stayed the same, some have changed.
So the changes after the 2011 season, we had Grosjean and Raikkonen in at Renault, which is now Lotus, and Petrov and Senna were kicked out. Senna also getting a seat at Williams, however. In the Toro Rosso team, we had Buemi and Alguersuari, both got kicked out, and Ricciardo and Jean-Eric Vergne came in. At Force India, one small change, Sutil out and Hulkenberg in, and Sauber remained the same.
So we've been watching testing for the first bit of the season. How do you think these midfield teams are looking going into 2012?
Well, I feel like the gap between all of the teams has really narrowed this year.
Yeah, it has, definitely.
The Toro Rosso team particularly seemed quite happy about the performance of their car in testing, and Lotus even have seemed quite strong as well, despite losing out quite a lot of testing time in the first Catalonia test. What about Force India? Have we heard much from them throughout testing?
Force India's had a very quiet start to the season, haven't they? We haven't heard too much. They haven't looked, super impressive in testing, but then maybe they've just been running a more low-key testing profile. They're not going for any of the top times, they're just getting through their program. That same with Sauber, we haven't heard much of them. But I think of the 4 teams, I think Toro Rosso looks the strongest, perhaps followed by Lotus.
I would agree with that. Okay, so it is Sunday. The last day of testing is actually still running at the moment, but I think it's safe to draw some conclusions from all of it. What's your feedback on what we've seen so far?
I think Red Bull and McLaren are clearly the 2 best teams. Ferrari's struggling. I think Mercedes could be maybe knocking on the door of 3rd place in the championship, and Toro Rosso best of the rest.
Where do you find Lotus in that order?
They're not looking as good as Toro Rosso. And as I've said a few times, I think their missing of most of the second test will hurt them.
Melbourne starts on the 16th of March. Practice 1 is in 11 days.
Can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. All right, and that wraps up the show for this week. Thanks again for joining us, Jem. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and don't forget to hit the like button on this video. It does help us out. You can find us on Facebook if you search for DownUnderSteer. You can email us at downundersteer@gmail.com, and you can also find us on Twitter. Until next week, we'll see you later.